I think it's really important to look at all of the non-strategy things, nervous system regulation, the belief systems. It's all of those non-strategic things that usually get in the way for women. And once those are cleared or neutralized, then the next big actions can come in. These are the small hinges that open up the big doors of opportunity.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Value Whispering podcast. I'm your host, Melitta Campbell, business coach, value whisperer, and advocate for introverted female entrepreneurs and experts who want to grow a business that feels natural, authentic, and impactful. Over the summer here on the show, I'm hosting the Brilliant Business Book Festival, where I'm speaking with the authors of some of my favorite business books, plus the books I wish I'd read sooner. Today's guest is Fabienne Fredrickson, founder of Boldheart and author of The Leveraged Business. This book is all about how you can grow from 6 to 7 figures, and before your little voice goes crazy and says, I can't do that, she explains how it's all about achieving 7 figures, but without working harder or sacrificing your life in the process. What I really love about Fabienne's approach is just how feminine and expansive it feels. Instead of the hustle, she talks about leverage. And instead of burning out, she shows us how to create systems, teams, and business models that free up more time and energy while still achieving bold results. In this conversation, you'll hear how to let go of the do more mentality and instead focus on the 20% of your actions that really drive results, and how to make those mindset shifts that allow you to scale with ease. And as always in the Brilliant Business Book Festival, you can head to melittacampbell.com/podcast to access the free AI coach tool, which I've called Valora, my AI twin. And that tool is going to help you turn the insights and wisdom from today's episode into practical actions that will help you tackle your current business challenges. It really is a fantastic tool. It's completely free to use. You just answer 3 short questions and it will email you some really amazing insights and action. So do go and give that a try. You'll find it on all the most recent episodes at melittacampbell.com/podcast. So let's dive in and hear Fabienne's insights on how you can scale your business sustainably and get your life back. So hi, Fabienne. It's great to have you with us on the show today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And I'm particularly excited. As I said, when I was putting this business book festival together, I was really keen to showcase that women can have smart, sharp business minds and think big as well. I love that you're not talking about 100,000 a year, you're talking about 100,000 a month, and how that doesn't have to mean that you're sacrificing your family, your relationships, anything else, that actually this is very possible and doable. And you've got lots of case studies of your clients that have achieved that. So I think that's really inspiring. And I love that a lot of the words that we see you talking about and using are words like feminine and expansive and heartfelt. And those aren't words we typically see associated with a 7-8 figure business. So I'm really excited to learn more about your approach. Of course, your book is The Leveraged Business. So we're looking at how do you grow that business in a way that respects your time and energy as well. But before we dive into the methodology, I'd love to know the background of it. How did you come up with this methodology in your 8 steps in the first place?
I'll give you the short version of it, but I left my corporate job 25 years ago to become self-employed. And because you're never taught how to get clients, in school or anything, long story, very, very short, I created a client attraction system for myself that helped me get from barely scraping by to a full practice very, very quickly. And so I started teaching other people how to do it. And then when I got to 6 figures, back then, I started putting together an imaginary box that said, okay, this works to get to 6 figures and this doesn't work. So I would only put together the things that did work. And then 17 years ago, when I took my business for the first time to 1 million a year or $100,000 months, if you will. I was living in the United States back then. But women were asking me, how did you do that with three small children at home? And how are you taking weeks and weeks of unplugged vacation? And I reverse engineered everything I did. And it was 8 steps. Those are the 8 steps that are in the book, The Leverage Business. It's about leveraging 8 different aspects of your business so that you can scale. But I also want to pick up a thread that you just shared. It's that we don't have to do it the grinding way, the hustle way. I figured out a long time ago, just by being a woman in the world, that I didn't want to do the bro marketing, the bro selling, the bro team building. It was preventing me from wanting to do the things I know I needed to do because the energy was wrong. And so I started, I don't know, pioneering, but at least showcasing a different way to do it, the feminine way, where it's about really honoring who we are, our values, and keeping our families and our downtime and our evenings and our weekends sacred. And what I've discovered along the way is that there are lots of women who think that you can't get to 100,000 euro, pound, or dollar months because it will mean more complexity and more work. And that is simply not the case if you take the approach that I'd like to share with you today. So the number one thing I would say is someone is looking to scale. Let's first work on the mindset that scaling to 7 figures is going to bring more work and more complexity because that's not the case. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to digging into that. But you mentioned there that you had these two boxes, things that didn't work and things that did work. And I'm assuming the things that went in that didn't work were things that everyone else is doing that sound like a good thing that you've heard of other people being very successful with, but for you proved more of a distraction than a help. I'm curious what was in the don't do box.
It was, yes, part distraction and part inauthentic energy.
Mm,
When you are being taught, okay, so actually, let me backtrack. Being half American, half French, I now live in France, but I spent 36 years in the US. The 20, 25 years ago, the only business coaching that you could get was from the guys. And the masculine way of scaling a business is very different than the feminine way. It is um, how do I say this nicely? You are being taught to do things in a very formulaic head way and not in an intuitive heart way.
yeah.
And I believe that there is room for both. Just like everything that works in nature is a combination of yin and yang, feminine and masculine, the same thing applies for business. So I was in all of the male masterminds, all of my mentors were male. And there was this, slay the dragon, work late nights, out compete your competitors. And I was like, there's no way. I can't do that. I've got babies at home. I have a marriage I love. I need downtime. The feminine needs resting energy to be able to show up the next day, which is not necessarily the case for the masculine. So I had to look at, okay, do I want to have a formula that gets the prospect to say yes 9 times in a formulaic way to close the sale? That doesn't feel intuitive. I wouldn't talk to a girlfriend that way. And so it was a combination of the energy is wrong. And if the energy is wrong, I'm not going to do it. And it was also the distractions, as you mentioned. When you look at anything that works and you look at the Pareto principle, it's also known as the 80-20 rule, you realize that everything in life is a combination of 20% of the things that work and 80% of the things that don't. And so I describe this in the book that one of the reasons we women entrepreneurs are so busy and overwhelmed is because we think we should do it all 100% of the time. And the approach I've lived, that I teach to all of my clients of Boldheart, and that I believe work for people like us, is to get really clear on what are the 20% of marketing activities, what are the 20% of things that we do with our clients that work, that produce 80% of the results, versus 80% of the things that we do that are wasting our time and that are distractions that produce only 20% of the results. And when you can get clear on that and get over this fear of being disliked or this fear of missing out, and you just focus on that 20%, your results are exponential. And this is true leverage.
Yeah, I love everything about what you just said. And I see it all the time. People saying, well, I've been doing this and it didn't feel right, but I didn't know what else to do. And, everyone's saying, do this. It's like, not everybody. And I think
Mhm.
that's the trouble with some of the louder voices is that they're saying their way, but it's not the only way. And I
Yeah.
think it's beautiful that you've just given everyone permission to find, well, what is the way that's working for you? Because I personally believe, when you're growing your business, it's a personal relationship between you and your clients. And so what's working for everyone else, that's great for them, but it might not necessarily be the thing that works for you and feels good, because if it doesn't feel good, we don't do it.
You're never going to do it. And to just pick up where you left off, there are ways that you market your business that are different than I and someone else, and they're all valid.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are great on video and from the stage, and they've got this charismatic personality, and that's how they get clients. But there are other people who are shy, who are more relationship people or more writers or who generate referrals just effortlessly. And they're just different types of people. And so one formula is not going to work for all those four different types of people. This is where you have to go in and say, what is authentic to me? What is the right energy for me? And what already works for me? And then leverage that and be okay with putting a pause button on all of the other things that are not going to work for you. You can't go against the grain. You can't row upstream and think it's going to work for, sustainably.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think people are often disappointed when, I've worked in marketing and communications for 30 years now. And when they have a conversation, I think they're really just crossing their fingers that I'm going to say, oh, just do this and it'll work. But that's not how marketing works. It really is this finding out what's going to work for you and your energy. And as you said, the experience that you're creating for your clients and focusing that and not doing everything, but giving yourself permission just to do those one or two things that work. And that's all it takes, which I guess is where we can scale without, as you say, having to work all weekends and late nights, which doesn't work for most women.
Who would want that?
No, exactly. But tell me about, so as I said, a lot of people are thinking their goal is that 100,000 a year. And you're encouraging people to think bigger and aim for 100,000 a month. What is the difference between the two? And how is that possible without sacrificing all your time and energy?
Mhm. The introduction of my book talks about the fact that what got you here won't get you there. So the mindset that got you to where you are, wherever you are on the continuum or the spectrum of business, the 5-figure mindset is not going to get you to 6 figures. And the 6-figure mindset is not going to get you to 7 figures. So this is why it's actually a mindset shift that needs to happen. And this book is entirely a mindset book. The marketing that you're doing now created the results you have now, but is not the marketing that will get you there. Right now, the marketing is usually you showing up and doing everything. One of the things I teach in my program is that to get to 7 figures is not about showing up as much. You're still showing up, right? But not as much. It's about moving from marketing activities to marketing assets, assets that can be created and then live in perpetuity, generating clients for years to come. The team you have now, or lack of team, got you here, but won't get you there. It may mean that you upgrade your team, bring on team members that you don't currently have, or just a different kind of person who can run your business for you and with you. I know that if somebody's listening to this and they're making 30 or 50,000 a year, they can't imagine having a team. That's how I was in the beginning. But there's a point at which when you take the leap of faith and you hire your first virtual assistant and you trust her enough to delegate, she can help you grow your business in a way that you can't do yourself. When you leverage your systems, whatever systems or lack thereof you have now, they won't get you to seven figures. The everything, your positioning, your business model, one to one is not going to get you to seven figures. And what we have to do is dismantle the old beliefs, dismantle the old fears, the self-image, the identity, the belief of that won't work for me, it's for other people. First, we do the mindset, and then the strategy comes. What happens is that most people hear the strategy and then they say, oh, no, 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 not in my business, not in my industry. That's for other people. And without working on the tapestry of your belief systems, your identity, your nervous system regulation, you won't be able to receive seven figures a year, and you'll stay at five figures or six figures. There's no shame in that. But this is what I've discovered for myself and the tens of thousands of women I've helped with grow to totally different revenues is it starts with a shift in identity.
Mm. And I think that, we've talked extensively about mindset, belief, and trusting yourself on the show. But is there any like one thing that you feel holds women back more than anything else when it comes to believing that or in dreaming bigger? Because maybe they think, well, that's all I'm really worth. And you touched on that, like, well, that's great for everyone else, but could never work for me.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can challenge the audience on that might be thinking that right now?
Yes. The first thing I would like to invite you to do is look for the evidence. One of the first things that I invite people to do, so for example, it could be going to your website and seeing the success stories. I invite people to go to my website and read the countless success stories, because when you can see that another woman has done it, it shifts something within you. And it's not just, one person, a unique snowflake, but it's dozens and dozens. There's something happens in the brain where you create a new neural pathway that says, if it can be done by them, maybe it could be done by me. And here's why this is important. Many of us are working in isolation. There are many reasons for this. Number one, we are reared, socialized, bred as women to be hyper independent. We're trying to show that we've got it going on, that we can do it in a world that doesn't really reward or support us. That's a whole nother podcast topic, but we end up doing it on our own. If it's going to be, it's up to me and all of that. But what happens in isolation is there is self-doubt.
Yeah.
And when you get a divine download for an idea, or you read a book and you're like, oh, this is so great, or you attend a seminar, or you watch this Instagram reel and you get this idea, the studies show in the law of diminishing intent that you've got 24 hours until you would take action on it. And so in isolation, the first day we've got lots of energy. Yeah, we're going to do it. By day two, we've given up on ourselves. When conversely, you see examples of other women doing it, when you are in a community of other women who are doing it with you, when you have a mentor or you're in a membership or something, and you see that lots of other people are doing it or have done it, it changes your belief about what's possible for yourself. So the number one thing I would say is get yourself in a community or get yourself inspired. Just binge success stories online. Uh, Go listen to podcasts that have that have people explaining to you how they did it, because it shifts your belief system, not just about can it happen, but can it happen for me?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I often think that women are starting out in business from below zero because most men that start a business, one, often they've planned it, whereas women haven't planned it. It's a life situation change that prompted them to start in business. So they haven't got that kind of plan and they don't have a network of other women around them who started a business, let alone other women around them that have got a 6 or 7 figure business. So we don't have those role models. And I used to run women's networks back in the day, and I just saw women just learn so much from other women, so inspired and encouraged, and achieve so much more when they have that community of women that have their back.
And
So,
here's why we need that more than men do. If you think back 50 years ago, so right now we're 2025, 50 years ago, how many seven-figure women were you exposed to? I was exposed to none. If you think back hundreds of years, there are examples of men who have captains of industry, and it's just normal. It's in all of the films and the books. But even 20 years ago, how many of us were there at seven figures? We simply don't have the examples. And so, from our consciousness, where we talk about wealth consciousness, but from our business consciousness, there haven't been a lifetime of examples to pull from. So, we're kind of pulling it out of thin air. Whereby the guys, there's just this understanding that, they're the ones who are be at the golf club or the country club and they're, captains of industry. We have to create our own narrative around that. And the only way to do that is to find the evidence. And the evidence is everywhere if you look for it. If you understand the concept of confirmation bias, if you think that there are no women at seven figures who have a delicious life and take 14 weeks of vacation, you will not find them. If you are looking for them, you will find them. And so it's about looking for the examples and then getting in that community so that you strengthen that neural pathway,
yeah.
because the neural pathways create the beliefs and the self-image that drive the actions.
Yeah, completely. And to find those communities, obviously you have one, but do you have any tips for finding those communities that are going to empower you and help you dream bigger and achieve more in your business?
I think it's a combination of three things. Number one, you're looking for a community where there is traction in the sense that their methodology has been around for decades. Not somebody who's new or they're just newly on Instagram and they have this, $27 product. You're looking for someone who has traction, gravitas, like they're still around because it works. And that their process and their methodology is solid. The second thing is you're looking for the right kind of culture. I was going to say energy. Does the person leading the community, do they have the same values that you do? Do they have the same lifestyle in the sense that maybe it's somebody who doesn't have kids and you have three kids? You need to learn from somebody who can tell you the things that you don't know.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
the
one of my mentors, a male mentor, but he gave great advice once. He said, never take advice from someone who doesn't already drive your dream car.
yeah, exactly.
I really love that. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I think the third thing would be just the kind of care that is being given to you. Do you feel like a number or do you feel like a human? Do you feel like everybody there is mm, supportive of you? And I think one of the best ways to find people like that are one, by asking others,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I'm here because you asked a friend who recommended me and you'd already read my book. So just asking around, like, who do you know who is running this sort of community or this sort of mentorship? I think it's really, really important. And then reading books, because in a book, a person will not only share their methodology a lot of the times, and you can say, does this make sense to me? But also their approach. You may like a sarcastic, biting kind of mentor, or you might like somebody who's more supportive and encouraging. And I think you get that from books. So just asking people, listening to podcasts, I think is a great way to get to know the community leader.
Yeah. And podcasts are great because you can listen to them while you're doing other things and you get a real
Exactly.
sense of who someone is. Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with you on reading the books. Well, I listen to books more than read these days.
Yeah.
You very quickly get a feel for that person and their methodology because there's so many I've read. And it's like, I can't even follow this methodology. I could never imagine working with this person or even beginning to implement any of this. And then others just break it down, make it feel so simple and doable. Think, yeah, I can take these bits and try them out for yourself. It's like a really easy road test, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, fantastic. So I want to come back to your 8 leverage activators. And obviously, we're not going to have time to go into all 8, but what's the sequence of those? How do they all fit together to help us take our small business and leverage that into something that's more robust and will support our lifestyle as well?
Yeah. The first concept before we go into even the first leverage activator, I call them activators, like switches in a dark room. If you're just kind of touching the walls and you can't see anything, even just activating one of the light switches will bring some clarity. And the more that you implement the 8 activators, the more you'll get clarity. It's understanding that to grow, you actually need to work less. And this is not what we've been taught. So when we come from the premise of, okay, if I want to scale, I actually have to work less, that's when you begin leveraging a team. And leveraging a team is understanding that while in the beginning you had to do everything yourself because you had more time than money, more time than clients, that's how you could start growing your business. But there's a certain point in your business at which there's no more of you to go around and no more time. And so the only way to scale is to begin to determine what are your highest potential activities, that 80-20 rule that we were just talking about, and what are the things that need to be delegated, eliminated, or automated. And with a team, when you have the right process for hiring a team using assessments and using a very specific hiring process, which is the opposite of, "Ooh, I like you, jump on board." It's the opposite of that. When you realize that there are roles in your business, not people. I know this sounds heartless, but I don't mean it that way. First, you hire for the role, people who are wired for that, who have experience and skill set in that particular thing. Then you begin to leverage the right person who takes things off your plate, get better results, but then you get back your time very quickly. When I work with somebody, they gain back about 6 hours a day within the first 3 to 6 months. And if you accumulate that per week, you gain back so much more time that then you can focus on exponential growth activities as opposed to busy stuff. So that's a small part of the chapter, if you will, called Leverage Your Team. But that's when you move to leveraging systems and understanding that anything that gets done in your business more than once a year needs a documented process around it. And this is where we have you go from a personality driven business to a process driven company.
Mhm.
And everything is documented and everything is a repeatable process, which means you're not brought in to put out fires all of the time. And so when you've got the right team documenting and running the right processes, you get back all of this time. There's no more hair on fire, whack-a-mole, use of your time. And so you're getting, let's say, 60 to 75% of your time back. Then we have to think about how do you leverage that time to focus on only exponential growth activities. And so this is where you start getting clear about what those rich activities are, and also This is where a lot of the work gets done with women on a mindset level, is to stop people pleasing and to stop letting people hijack your time and to stop putting the needs of others before your own, and permission to prioritize yourself, your goals, your business, your vision. And then I'll touch on the fourth one, is about leveraging your business model and understanding that if you really want to make an impact on the world or on your community, working with 10, 20 individual clients a year is, one, going to deplete your time, and two, just you can't make very good money doing that unless you're charging, 100,000 a client. And so it's about looking at how can you get the same or better results to your clients in a way that you're not involved in everything. And there are countless permutations of how you can do that with your clients that doesn't involve you. So, for example, working with me, you get a lot of me, but there are other things that are involved. There's a community, there's other mentors, there's content, there's facilitated masterminds, events, and that's how I'm able to work with so many more people. So, those are just some of the leveraged ways of scaling your business that gain you back your evenings, your weekends, your vacation, and your sanity.
Yeah. And you know what I love about that system and the way you just explained it is that one of the fears that I hear from women is that, yeah, but if I take myself out of my business, it's no longer my business. But what you're explaining is actually we're taking what works and we're systemizing you. So you don't have to be doing the one doing all the bits and pieces. Other people can do it exactly to your design, exactly to your
Yes.
standards, giving you more time to take your business to that next level, and help people even further. So by following that methodology, you can actually bring more of you into your business, not less.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I really love that.
For example, when I do an event, a mastermind event, everything is documented so that there are certain types of flowers on the table. There's always a box of Kleenex. There's always this. This is always what we serve. This is always the music, never any words in the music while people are working on worksheets. There's a whole process by which the chairs are set up so that when I walk in the room, at, let's say the event starts at 9 a.m., I walk in the room at 8:45. It is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And it could sound like it's a controlling way to do it, but it's actually gives so much relief to the team because they know what to do. They have autonomy in the sense that they know how to handle everything. There's no guessing, there's no need to call Fabienne. And so there's a saying in my business, WWFD. What would Fabienne do? And that really empowers the team to be really successful in their role. And that is a process-driven company.
Yeah, and you waste a lot less mind space worrying about things and having to micromanage. Has everything been done? Because you can trust that. And I know a lot of women are, particularly entrepreneurs, are discovering that they have ADHD because their kids have been diagnosed, and that becomes then a stress point. But I think with having all of this documentation, it helps you to stay organized without the worry or the anxiety that can come with that. And likewise with those who are more introverted and need to protect that energy, again, they don't need to waste any of this energy. So yeah, it makes so much sense on so many levels. So I love that. Well, one quick question. We hear a lot of advice, if you want to get more income from your business, just double your prices. And I know women have a tendency to undercharge, or, I don't like this phrase, not charge your worth, because I think it's more about the value, not your personal worth necessarily. But um, where does pricing fit into this model, or does it?
I've always been asked about this, and there isn't one way to do it because you're either going for mass or class. Um, and what I mean by that is you could have 1,000 people in your membership at $27, or you could have a program that's $35,000. It depends where your positioning is in the marketplace. You could have a combination of both. So I agree that most women undercharge. And I think that again is because we are raised to put the needs and concerns and worries of others before our own. We are literally raised to be nice girls, and nice girls don't put forth shocking prices. And nice girls are people pleasers. And so, without even knowing it, just about every woman is undercharging for her services. So, again, there is no one formula. The way that I've charged very elevated prices in the past for a VIP red carpet kind of thing is to say what would make me feel like this is a bargain, and just put more and more and more value in it so that the value is so exceeding whatever the sticker shock is that you feel confident selling it.
Mhm.
So the approach is, would I buy this? Is there so much value that I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, this is incredible? And whatever you have to do in the beginning to throw in that value without it being your time, without it you bringing you into servitude, and then after a while, you realize that with your gravitas, with your mastery, you don't actually need to throw in all that much because you know that you bring so much value. And in any selling conversation, the person with the most conviction, I don't want to say wins because it's not a competition, but when you are convinced of the value that you provide, it really doesn't matter what you charge. And understanding that you're not trying to get everybody. There are people who've come to me in the past and say, that's more than I was prepared to. I'm like, oh my God, don't worry about it. There's so much of my free content online, 25 years of content online. Start there. And when you're ready, come.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And also the flip side, we don't necessarily trust things. If you buy that $27 program, you're not really expecting that to get you to seven figures, so it's really, getting the value right for what you want to achieve too. If you're just getting started and you just want a bit of a flavor, fine, go for the $27 course.
I'll say different business owners at different levels buy different programs. If
Mm.
you're offering me a $200 program and telling me it's going to get me to 7 or 8 figures, I won't even look at it because I'm looking for the tried and true.
Yeah,
And certain level of clients expect it to be a higher price point. And if it isn't, you're wasting their time. I know how that could sound, but they're looking for something that's practically guaranteed to work and they're willing to pay for it.
yeah. And as you say, if it is tried and true, they're going to have those testimonials to prove it. So you can build that bank of evidence to help you confidently to buy. But then on the flip side, you can build that to help. I've forgotten what the flip side was, but you know what I mean.
It, yeah. To charge charging little and expecting a lot, that's more of a newbie who is just trying to grab at straws, all the free stuff, all the low price stuff. But you get to a certain level of client and they're not afraid to pay a lot
Yeah,
because they're expecting a lot of value and they trust themselves too. Higher level clients trust themselves in making the investment because they've invested in themselves before and they've shown themselves that they can show up. Whereby a newbie client hasn't necessarily put in the work in the same way. And so there's a lot more wishy-washiness. Should I invest? Should I not invest? Do I trust myself to show up? Do I not trust myself? But people who are more uh, seasoned in their business or more successful in life trust themselves to show up. And they're okay if they don't show up fully because they know it's personal responsibility.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And we've talked previously on the show about fair pricing, and fair pricing means it's fair to the customer. Yeah, it's reflecting that value, but it's also fair to you. You're growing a sustainable business, and if you're not charging enough, that business isn't going to last either. So by aiming for those six, seven figures, you're going to be able to help so many more people over a
Exactly.
longer period of time and have more fun. So
Exactly.
yeah. Fabienne, you have covered so much, so thank you so much for that. Is there anything else that you feel as women listening to the show are considering taking that bigger leap, thinking, yeah, I can do this, I can go bigger, it is possible for me. Is there anything else you feel they need to know to help them on that journey?
I think it's really important to look at all of the non-strategy things. One of the things I talk about on my podcast is nervous system regulation, the belief systems. Are you comfortable receiving more money? Are you comfortable not being the one holding the client's hands and trusting other people? It's all of those non-strategic things that usually get in the way for women. And once those are cleared or neutralized, then the next big actions can come in. And I think a lot of people are just looking for the strategy, which is massively important, but it doesn't start with the strategy. It starts with the new identity. Can you allow and receive help? Can you allow and receive more money? Can you allow to do your business without working so many hours and being so hyper independent? And those are the things that are not being talked about enough. But these are the small hinges that open up the big doors of opportunity, at least with my clients. And so that's what I would share is don't forget about those things.
Yeah, I love that. And I've seen that in practice. This, how you perceive yourself holds you back so much. Many years ago, I did a network marketing business. So I helped 200 women start the same business with the same marketing, pricing, products, everything was the same. So it was like this crazy control experiment. But only a handful were successful because one, it was a business in a box, so they hadn't really proven to themselves that they could do this. But that self-image, that belief that they could give this a try is what set them apart. And it was so, so interesting. I didn't do it for very long, but that part has stayed with me so deeply ever since. And partly why I trained then as a mindset coach as well, to help with that part. Because as you say, not enough people are talking about, yeah, get your marketing right, but it's not going to work if you don't believe in yourself and have all of that side that you just described working with you. So, yes.
Exactly.
And of course, a brilliant start point is to get your book.
It's honestly, I've put everything in the book and with the idea of, it's all there. If you like it and it seems like it's going to work for you, some people will come forth. And if not, they'll just get the value from the book. So it's called The Leveraged Business, and you can get it on boldheart.com for free shipping and a whole bunch of video series and assessments and free stuff.
Amazing. Fabienne, thank you so much. And you mentioned your podcast. Is that called Leverage Business as well?
No, it's called The Fabienne Show. Super original. The Fabienne Show.
Fantastic. Great. And thank you again for being an amazing guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. I had a wonderful time with you.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation with Fabienne and are leaving with a new sense of what could be possible in your business. Scaling does not have to mean working harder, burning out, or giving up on your weekends and evenings. As Fabienne reminded us, it's about leveraging more, really using your team, your systems, and your mindset so your business can grow while you gain more freedom. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, I would love to hear what resonated with you most. Drop me a note on LinkedIn. You'll find me there at Melitta. That's Melitta with 2 T's. And if you know of another business owner who feels stuck today at 6 figures or trying to get to those 6 figures and is feeling overwhelmed by the idea of growing bigger, do share this episode with them. It could be exactly the encouragement and insight that they need. And remember to turn today's insight into practical action with Valora, my AI twin. You'll find her in the show notes page for this episode over at melittacampbell.com/podcast. She'll take your current challenges and help you map them into simple, actionable steps based on the strategies that Fabienne has shared today. And before we wrap up, I would love to invite you to join the waitlist for my brand new program, the Momentum Month. This is designed for business owners who don't necessarily need more information or another certification. They need focused support, accountability, and the structure to actually make progress and to spot those missing opportunities that might be just hiding in the wings. Together with a small cohort over 1 month, you'll map out your goals and get the support you need to make real traction towards your vision. It's not about doing more, but leveraging more, exactly what we've been talking about on today's show. For more information and to join the waitlist, head over to melittacampbell.com/momentum. Meantime, I've been Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode next Wednesday. Bye for now.